Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We turn now to poem 650. Pain has an element of blank. Pain used in 52 of her poems. Notice the word pain will begin and end this poem. And the use of the word element will be one that we will focus on as well. Now, in many ways, we're back to poem 241. You guys will maybe remember this one. It's when we hit this poem, I told you that we would come back to it a lot. I like a look of agony because I know it's true. Men do not sham convulsion nor simulate a throe. The eyes glaze once, and that is death, impossible to feign. The beads upon the forehead by homely anguish, strung from agony to anguish. Now, Sewell, the great biographer, will point out that towards the end of her life, that Emily had fallen in love with Judge Ortis P. Lord. And she will describe in a letter number 750, to Lord, the same kind of language that she describes pain in this poem, ironically. She writes, quote, "Tenderness has not a date. It comes and overwhelms. The time before it was not, so why establish it? And all the time to come it is, which abrogates the time." Now we're going to be thinking a lot about pain and its relationship to time. The great scholar Leiter has said this about this poem, quote, "Some of Dickinson's most incisive poems are explorations of the nature of pain and its variants. Affliction, agony, anguish, despair, grief, loss, misery, suffering. She came at the subject from many directions, enlisting her genius as a thinker and image maker to approach its nature, its power, and the process by which it transforms human consciousness. Far from narrowly cerebral, her meditations on pain are suffused with a passion and authenticity that can only have come from deeply felt experience. In composing them, she must have transcended, at least momentarily, both the chaos and blindness she identified as pain's markers." Brilliant, brilliant insights. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, I play this. I'm hopeful that you've worked through a set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 649 poems. We just finished with 649, Her Sweet Turn to Leave. Now, if you have, you will place this poem and hear the echoes. Many have called Emily the greatest poet of pain and suffering. That has led some to call her a Gothic poet. But I think it's more about her analysis of the theodicy question, as we commented on our Big Five. The theodicy, why must there be pain and suffering? What is the value of pain and suffering? Now, one scholar has said about this poem, note that so much of what pain is like relates to time. And in this poem, we're going to play with the cyclical nature of time and pain. Pain has an element of blank. It cannot recollect when it begun, or if there were a time when it was not. It has no future but itself. It's infinite, contained. It's past, enlightened to perceive new periods of pain. Now, it's hard for us to imagine that Emily would have ever read anything in Buddhist theology, and yet her use of this word enlightened, I think, here is compelling. Notice she'll begin by saying that pain, there's something about pain. It has an element of blank. Now, when we get to poem 761, we'll come back to this. This is the way she says it. "From blank to blank, a threadless way, I pushed mechanic feet to stop or perish or advance, alike indifferent. If end I gained, it ends beyond indefinite disclosed. I shut my eyes and groped as well. 'Twas lighter to the blind." We'll come back to this idea of the blank. That pain has this capacity to just kind of blank everything. So there is no past, there is no present, there is no future. Notice, it can't recollect. Remember, when it begun. This is the nature of real pain, real suffering. Or if there were a time when it was not. In other words, it just assumes all of our time in our thinking. It has no future as well as no past. But itself, it's infinite contained. Notice her use of this adjective to create a noun. Right? In other words, pain lives. In some way, she seems to be arguing that, like God, pain is infinite. Contained, it's past. It assumes. In other words, we are so blown away by pain and suffering that not only does it take care of everything from the past, but also it has an effect on the future. Enlightened to perceive, of course the key word here maybe is perceive, new periods of pain. Notice the genius of the word period, as in finality as well as duration in the same word. And then we're back to the first word of pain. What is it that she's arguing at 2A? I think she's arguing pain absorbs both past, future, and maybe even present itself. At 2B, we have a number of things that are remarkable about this poem, right? There are a number of interesting, ambiguous syntactic forms in the lyric, maybe intended to convey a confused state of the suffering mind, one scholar has said it. For example, in stanza 2, we had anticipated the indicative contains, not the subjunctive contain. Perhaps the rhyme dictated the choice, one scholar's pointed out. In stanza 1, the use of the participial begun for the indicative began does seem meaningful in suggesting that so far as our memory is concerned, this pain had no beginning. It seems, in retrospect, always to have been begun before we remember its beginning. Thus, at times, the unusual syntactic forms do serve semantic purpose to finish. And then, of course, the meter here as well. Notice the first stanza scarcely rhyming, recollect not, while the second has this perfect echo, contain, pain. And then the alliterative P sound of the second stanza stresses words, the word pain, obviously, focusing upon the central concern, past, perceive, periods, pain. Emily's playing all of the language games. At 3A, well, when we get to poem 967, pain expands and contracts the time. Tennyson's In Memoriam immediately comes to mind here as well. And finally, at 3B, to own a poem like this, when was a time that you struggled with pain and suffering? And the blank, the element of the blank. Thank you.